One of my New Year's resolution is to review more entertainment media like video games, films, or anime. So reviewing all of those things would fill up the gaps between all of the lazy times that I do throughout, which is playing video games, watching films, and anime. It would make my job a bit harder as I need to finish them, but hey, making YouTube content is fun and talking about these anime and games are fun. So why not continue this trend? Why not use this unused blue Nostalgia Critic inspired shirt for all of my reviews? Let's talk about an anime that becomes one of the major topics of discussions thanks to its gratuitous depiction of rape on the very first episode, Goblin Slayer. I don't really have an official name for this sorts of reviews, but hey, since my blue hat is so iconic to this channel, I think this series might as well have its own name. Welcome to Uncapped, the bluer the better. And here's my uncapped take on Goblin Slayer. But before I go to the take, I want to say huge thanks to my new patrons, the Overlord of Gamers and Nathan. You guys are fantastic. Now, I've talked about the controversy and the reactions that this anime got from the unfortunately easily offended snowflakes, and I've said in my last video that Goblin Slayer does what it does best, and it's nothing really much other than Goblin Slayer slaying goblins. After watching the first episodes, I continue on with the manga, and halfway through, while I do enjoy the manga for what it tries to do, I'm not really interested to continue on past the village invasion arc, but at least I am relatively satisfied with what I'm reading, so I'd give props to that. But since the Goblin Slayer anime is ending just a couple of days ago, I figured that it would be great to catch up with the rest of the series. So what did I think of Goblin Slayer, the anime version? Does it really worth getting through the 12 episodes of it? Well, let's talk about it, shall we? The story of Goblin Slayer is essentially someone's D&D campaign with pretty much all of the characters named after their class instead of having their own actual names. So Goblin Slayer is just Goblin Slayer, Priestess is just Priestess, and Cowgirl, well, she has milk. I think you're all familiar with the first episode story and how the priestess and her party got absolutely crushed by the goblins thanks to their arrogance and inexperience. The rest of the priestess party is either dead or severely traumatized. The internet is unable to handle something this horrific on an animated series, and their cries and whines have successfully made Goblin Slayer to be the most watched anime series in America. Good job, you mentally unprepared newbies of pop culture media. But as the priestess's party got annihilated, she got rescued by the one and only Goblin Slayer, who seems to know exactly what he's doing in terms of slaying the goblins, and thus began the tale for the priestess, Goblin Slayer, and eventually more people joining the party to take down the goblins once and for all. So when I first saw the anime and eventually read the manga, the impression that I got is nothing much really. It's just a party led by Goblin Slayer slaying goblins in the most creative of ways. There's nothing really much that I can say to the premise because the story doesn't really give much. It gives you exactly what it says on the tin. Okay, the party fought one monster other than the goblin once, but it's mostly about the goblin slaying. And if that's what you expect from the anime, I guarantee that you would be pleased. But if you're looking for something more from this anime, be prepared to be a bit disappointed. Despite having 12 episodes, Goblin Slayer himself receives very little to no character development. A lot of people make the comparison between him and the Doom Slayer from the video game Doom, but the one character that reminds me the most from him is actually Batman. His origin story is also pretty similar. Both characters witnessed the tragedy of their loved ones, and both characters vowed to fight against the evil that wronged them. And like Batman, while he does have a lot of character development moments, he's essentially an immovable object. Also, like Batman, the most interesting characters of them all end up being the side characters. And to that end, thankfully the Goblin Slayer delivers. The priestess plays a really good role as not just the audience surrogate, but also as the Robin to Goblin Slayer's Batman. She is someone who also struggles to understand the personality behind the mask. In a lot of sense, she joins him on his adventures in an attempt to understand him and what makes him to be what he is right now. The dynamic between the two is really damn good, and I wish the second season would focus more on them and how Goblin Slayer opens up to her more and realizing how important she is to him. The rest of the characters are pretty damn good as well. The High Elf Archer is as annoying as she is hilarious. The Dwarf and the Lizard are surprisingly pretty damn entertaining as well. The interactions between all of them are arguably some of the best parts in the anime. One character that I'm legitimately shocked to even have any development at all was the Guild Girl. She's not a very crucial character, but she ends up being a lot more interesting than I thought she would be. She has one part in the episode dedicated to her, and I surprisingly enjoyed that. I also really like her ability to maintain a very PR response despite the hardship and struggles that people get through. So in terms of side characters and waifus, Goblin Slayer did not disappoint. But the anime isn't all doom and gloom. The anime knows exactly when to take a break from all the chaos and madness and delivers some some legitimately funny moments. An entire episode of the anime is dedicated just for the characters to take a break and enjoy life. I appreciate the anime to take a break and being more lighthearted, which really does make us to get attached more to the characters and understand the world a lot more. And speaking of the world, that's unfortunately one of the weak points of the anime. There's really nothing much that the world can offer other than it's just your bog standard D&D campaign. The anime even discusses how the great gods above are rolling the dice to determine the fate of the world. I thought that was the game master's job. The world building of the anime leaves a lot to be desired, and I think that's one of the anime's weakest points. It's really nothing too special and exciting. But that being said, for what the anime tries to do on the story, the world works just fine. It doesn't have to be something super fancy, especially if the characters are already pretty good as well. Still, if we're talking about the story as a whole, all of them pretty much follow the same pattern. Goblin Slayer and his team are going to go out there hunting goblins in a world where there are other infinitely worse monsters taking down humans. The setting wasn't that special, but I think it's because the story doesn't really show us a whole lot. There's not a lot of time in the anime where we actually go out there and venture to the dark parts of the world. It's always small, very secluded areas. There's only like one part of the anime where it actually goes outside of the already familiar setting that the anime takes place in. Which brings me to something that the anime did that I have to give major props to. The anime overall is something that I would just simply shrug at. It's really nothing special compared to the rest of the animes around the world, even if with all the rape and gore that a lot of animes have done significantly much worse at, but still, for an anime that doesn't pretend to be anything else other than its title, I have to give major props for trying to be something more once in a while. So you have all of these people being upset that Goblin Slayer's rape scene is too uncomfortable for them to handle, or that it's unnecessary and gratuitous, and ever since that scene, they refuse to watch the anime again. That's quite unfortunate because the anime treats the topic of rape very seriously. It's not just something that's being used as shock value, it is actually a major plot point in one of the arcs of the anime. Being raped by the goblins is a legitimately horrifying fear, something that severely traumatized many characters in the anime. Hell, the entire origin story of Goblin Slayer revolves around him witnessing the atrocity that the goblins did to his sister when he was a kid. That's what builds him to be what he is right now. So to say that the anime uses rape as nothing but shock value is not giving it enough credit at all. This anime not just shows you the rape, but also discusses the impact of the event. My favorite part of the anime is easily the part where Goblin Slayer had a private discussion to someone that I will not spoil. Basically, the discussion revolves around the impact of rape, highlighting that even the strongest of individuals are bound to fear of the smallest of things, traumatized by something that they have all the power to quench easily, but they're unable to do so because of how horrific the past events have shaped them. Past trauma has severely damaged them to the point where, despite these strong characters having the ability to defeat them just easily, they're still unable to move on from the fear and the nightmare. For an anime that is nothing but goblin slaying, that part of the anime is shockingly profound. The anime raised a really interesting topic of discussion about the impact of rape. It's an anime that has a message about it, and it wasn't shoehorned in at all. The story, the characters, the setting, all have successfully complemented the significance of the message. Not only it makes the characters and story to have more layers and depth, but it also raises a profound topic worthy of discussion. Goblin Slayer does something that I don't think any Western media would ever successfully do in current year. It's not just the characters and the story and the jokes and the endless amount of fan service. The anime manages to send a powerful message about the impact of rape without the needs of arbitrarily shoehorning it into the story. The discussion comes off very naturally because it truly involves the characters' fear and trauma that is caused by the nature of the world that the characters are living in. This is where the anime's world building and characters really help to bring this message across, and for that, I give Goblin Slayer a huge thumbs up. But still, we need to judge the anime based on the overall quality. I do give credits for the anime to do some things really damn well, but still, it is the overall quality that needs to be put in judgment here. Overall, I think Goblin Slayer does what it does really well, but it doesn't really do anything much other than that. For 12 episodes, it is a nice way to waste your time for a bit, but other than its surprisingly respectful and profound discussion about the impact of rape and the side characters that are pretty solid and likable, don't expect much from this anime. I'd give this anime 3 blue caps out of 5. It's fine, I had a good time with it, but it's not gonna be everyone's cup of tea. So that's my uncapped take on Goblin Slayer. I hope you guys enjoyed this brand new series, and I hope that this series can continue on. Thankfully, I have more anime uncapped coming, and these are all gonna be animes that are worthy of discussion in this current year. Also, Happy New Year, everybody!